Welcome to a brand new episode of PNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Patnankar. Let's get started right away because you've got a nice glimpse of all the goodies that are coming your way over the next half hour. Now let's get on with the BMW X5M and the X6M. I mean, these twins are very similar. They share the same massive engine and there's tons packed into it in terms of technology and performance. So much going on with these cars that there's plenty to keep you very interested. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona in the United States to drive it. I showed that to you last week and promised you the review. So here it is. BMW's M division had its most successful year in 2019 with overall sales up 32% over 2018. The new X3 and X4M as well as the M8 family arrived in 2019 too. So as the new BMW X5M and X6M hit the market, the expectation is that 2020 should better last year's numbers. The two SAVs, or sports activity vehicles as BMW likes to call them, are indeed the more powerful versions of the stock cars that they are based on. And yes, they are designed to take on everything from the Audi RS Q8, Mercedes-AMG GLE 63S and its coupe alter ego, to the Porsche Cayenne and Cayenne Coupe and the Range Rover Sport SVR. Yes, it is a formidable lineup of rivals, and so it is important to see if they have the goods to match up, right? I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona in the southwestern United States to test these beasts. The X5 and the X6 have always shared a lot, and by that I mean their platforms, their powertrains. It's no different with the latest generation of the X5M and the X6M. Two new colors as well, for what it's worth. You got Tanzanite blue and Ametrin. I'm not even going to try and describe that color to you. You can see it for yourself. But yes, we have access to both these cars. The thing that's important to note though is that it is the X5M that's looking more sure for an India launch. This is the car that's heading to us to sit as the flagship or at the pinnacle of the X family in India, and which is why, even though I'm going to spend a little bit of time with this one, the focus will be right here. But I promise a bit on the X6M later too. So on with the X5M now, right? The car's looks build on the regular X5 but adds the M appeal and promise of performance in its styling. This means larger air intakes, M-badged gills on the side panel, new aerodynamic mirrors and more. Now this is an SUV, and one of the reasons people buy an SUV, even a performance SUV, well, it's for that ride height, it's for the ground clearance, and so you've got a fair amount of suspension travel in this one too. But then you've got the performance part to sort of add on to it, and which is why you've got 21 inches in the front and 22-inch wheels at the rear. So that's the M territory, if you will. And speaking of which, even in terms of styling, there are these few bits that kind of really scream a little bit meaner, if you will. So the black mirrors, the nice black trim that you see going around the car, all the garnish, and of course the special M wheels. Even at the back, even the badge is nice and mean with a black finish. Kind of looks sinister, complements the black grille up front, and I think that's a nice touch. The diffuser, the twin tailpipes at the rear, also finished off in black. So on the whole, even though the last car also looked very much the M version, I think with this generation the buyer is going to like the fact that it does look that little bit different, a little more edge to it. A quick look at its specs reveals not just all that power at 612 bhp, but also a meaty 750 Nm of peak torque that is available from 1800 to 5800 RPM. The car gets an M-specific chassis. Get it out on the road and all of that comes to life. does not take long for you to realize that this is a special car. The engineering is near flawless and its size belies its drivability. Yes, once again, BMW has pulled off the kind of performance that you typically expect from a much lower riding car with lesser weight and overall height. Defying physics seems to be the preoccupation of SUV developers these days anyway.
Now, typically any new generation of any new car is always supposed to be better and an improvement over the last one. It's no different here as well, though the minute you add M into that equation, you also expect things to get more powerful. And the good news is that has happened. It's 25 more horses than you get over the predecessor, and now you also have the competition model, which takes things another 25 horses higher, so 50 horses more than the predecessor. That's pretty substantial. And in performance terms, what that also gives you is a really unbelievable 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds. That's the competition. It's 3.9 on the regular X5M.
With the X5M competition as well, you get a very precise, sporty and dynamic car which will hug corners, take on bends and fast lane changes and move very quickly with no hint of hesitation. The car's steering is a delight. It will allow you to nip about with ease and precision while giving you the sporty stiffness you want from a car like this.
So you now also have the M mode down here. Press that and you can kind of toggle through the road, sport and then track option. Track, of course, not for where I am right now, because as the name suggests, it's not road legal, and it gives you very different levels of dynamics and more extreme sense of performance based on which mode you're in. And the good part is it's also nice and noisy.
Even in its most tame setting, the X5M competition is a beast. It will leap ahead. The paddle shifters are very effective and the car is an absolute pleasure to drive. It also does not feel heavy or held back by its heft or proportions whatsoever.
Now, the car also comes with M compound brakes. You can also configure the braking, by the way, and you have the M Sport differential. The all-wheel drive is the M X drive, and so it's M specific in terms of being able to handle different terrains. There's also the M adaptive suspension. All of this becomes standard, of course, on the competition, and you know, the whole idea is to be able to give you the right kind of maneuverability along with the kind of right comfort or stiffness that you're looking for. And when it comes to the all-wheel drive, no doubt there'll always be a rear bias, though most of the torque distribution is based on the terrain, the surface that is, and also the kind of driving input that you're providing to the vehicle. But yeah, like I said, for the most part, it maintains a rear bias as you'd expect from a BMW.
So you can customize everything from the throttle response, gear changes, steering feel, suspension to the braking, since each of those has various degrees of sportiness or comfort that can be individually manipulated.
So really precise handling, great steering, reassurance on the fact that you can push this car if and when needed, and it will deliver exactly what you want. And on that, there is absolutely no faulting the X5M.
The car's cabin is impeccably finished, and it will offer you a sense of both sheer luxury and fine craftsmanship, as well as the sporty theme expected with a car like this. The quilted leather seats, optional color and material palettes, and the latest tech, including BMW's voice assistant and 7th generation iDrive touchscreen interface, are all standard, of course.
Great craftsmanship and the latest layout in terms of the interior design. That's something you've seen on the X5. You also get the latest iDrive. So those are things you know. But the part that's been added on, which comes with the M iteration, is also what you've seen recently on the M8, which is you get these new buttons, new shortcuts, and new driver customization tools, if you can call it that, because what it does is it allows you to really enjoy the drive based on how you really like it. So what am I referring to? Well, you got the M gear shift here. It has the adjustable button which lets you change the characteristic of the gear shifting. So you've got 3 different grades there. And then you've got the M mode button where you can basically switch between road, sport and track. And then you've got the setup button which lets you go in and customize everything. So remember how earlier you had, comfort, eco, and of course sport, and then within each one you could go in and sort of customize and do an individual setting. So now you've got a complete layout where you can look at the engine, chassis, steering, the brake, and then even depending on the mode that you're in, give the 4-wheel drive, the X drive, a little bit of a tweak. So it is all really easy to do because you can switch between efficient, comfort and sport on each of those and simply put the setup to what you like. And then of course you can have those shortcuts saved into the M1 and M2 button here on the steering wheel, so that on the fly very quickly, if you know that you want to quickly overtake someone or you want to get into a maneuver or just change the driving characteristic without having to go into the menu or use the buttons down here, well, the little shortcuts on the steering wheel come in handy.
As promised, I also hopped into the X6M competition for a bit. The teams at BMW M will tell you that the two cars are identical, and in numbers, as I've said before, they are indeed. Yet, they say that the X6M will be slightly sportier and stiffer of the two. Strangely, I found the opposite to be true. The X6M felt like it's more tuned to the everyday driving needs, while the X5M just felt stiffer, especially its steering. So I'll have to put that down to customizing the various individual settings differently in both the cars, so as to believe what the BMW engineers told me. But like I said earlier, the X6M is unlikely to come to us anyway. The regular X6 will, mind you, as the new 3rd generation of that car is also headed to India in 2020, but that is a separate story altogether. So the X5M will also come in 2020, and I do think BMW India will opt for only the competition variant. I expect a launch to happen just ahead of the festive season, and the expected price range for this monster, 1.8 to 2 crore rupees. And so it is clearly not for everybody. But then you knew that at the start of this story, didn't you?